So losing to Oregon wasn't fun, but it wasn't unexpected. Also, Michigan is going full NIL for next year. Coming up next. Welcome to the Point of Minutes show on Michigan football at the Voice of College Football, where we average one outstanding point for every minute of video. My name is Cliff. His name is Mac. Let's get into it. Now, we heard a lot in the offseason about Michigan reloading instead of rebuilding, and that's turned out to not be true. To some extent, the problem might be a coaching problem rather than a talent problem, but lack of coaching leads to lack of talent when you start losing recruits. Michigan was hesitant to jump into the NIL pool, and that's probably putting it mildly, maybe even inaccurately. Nevertheless, mistakes have been made, but corrections might be on the way. But let's take a step back and find out what those problems were that need to be corrected, starting with Davis Warren. Mac, there were signs of life from Michigan versus Oregon. Was it a mistake to pull Davis Warren from the starting spot?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 2020. So, you can say it was a mistake to pull Davis Warren from the starting spot now, knowing what we know now, but we didn't know what we know now back then, obviously. So yeah, I guess you could say it was a mistake. Do we learn that mistake without having put in Jack Tuttle and Alex Orji? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, arguments could be made either way. Would it have been the smart thing to do to stick with Davis Warren despite the 3 turnovers against Arkansas State? At the time, you could argue one way or the other. There are some good arguments for both sides. I think probably what should have happened is they should have stuck with Davis Warren. But let's not pretend for a second 75% of the fan base wasn't calling for Alex Orji to be the starter. I think most Michigan fans were pretty much over the Davis Warren era before it even began, honestly. That game against Fresno State, they looked anemic. Against Arkansas State, he throws 3 interceptions. You're coming up to the USC game and you're thinking we're just about to get blown out by USC. There's got to be a quarterback change. There's got to be something to give us a spark. And certainly watching the first half of that USC game, you're thinking, yeah, Alex Orji was the guy. Why didn't he start the first couple of games of the season? Well, you kind of started to figure that out as the season goes on, and then Jack Tuttle starts. Tuttle gives them a little bit of a spark against Washington. Washington comes back and wins the game. You can talk about the defense, how the defense kind of let some things slip as well. But I think, if you're really looking at where this team is right now, the performance that they put up against Michigan State and Oregon, you're probably thinking, if Davis Warren is the starter against Illinois and Washington, does Michigan lose those games? I like to think that they beat Washington. I don't know about Illinois. I mean, Illinois, the defense played a great game against Illinois. They held them pretty well. So maybe there's something to be said for they pull out that game and then 9-3 is still on the table at that point. I think it's something that, we'll just never really know. Unfortunately, those games have passed and there's nothing you can do about it now. And frankly, it might also be that there's a bit of a change in their way of thinking with the offense right now, thinking we've already lost to Illinois, we've already lost to Washington. Our goals are pretty much, out of the question at this point in terms of Big Ten championship and the playoffs. So against Michigan State, they're like, screw it. Let's go back to Davis Warren because Jack Tuttle's out for his career. He retired. Right. And Alex Orji didn't work against Washington. So let's go back to Davis Warren and just say, screw it. We'll fit in Orji somewhere. Not sure where, but we'll figure it out. And Davis Warren is apparently the better passer, so let's just see what happens. And what happened was they actually played a pretty solid game against Michigan State and a pretty solid game against Oregon. And you got to kind of look at those games and think, is that because Davis Warren was always the guy? Or did they go into those games thinking, screw it, let's just see what happens? Is Davis Warren dropping back in the pocket thinking, Colston Loveland's down there somewhere? So I don't know. It's hindsight is 2020. Was it a mistake? Maybe. Would it have changed anything? I don't know.
Yeah, I was one of those too that wanted Alex Orji to start, but that was mainly because of seniority, I thought. But yeah, it's turned out that he's really not the passer and Davis Warren is. With that in mind, though, they were saying that Orji is one of those players, Alex Orji is one of those players that could play any position. And they put him at quarterback, but Michigan has a talented roster. There's a lot of talent on that team, but raw talent needs good coaching. If you were picking coordinators to blame or to fire, who would you let go and who would you want to replace them?
So coaches are kind of a weird thing because we're just fans on the outside looking in. Okay, we can't see what Wink Martindale is doing on the inside. We can't see the way his brain is thinking. All we can see is that, Michigan State just converted another 3rd and 10 running it. Nate Marshall just ran for another 3rd down conversion 10 yards out. So that's extremely frustrating for us fans for sure. And then you look at the Oregon game. I mean, Dylan Gabriel could have picked us apart. They honestly, I think they let off the gas a little bit, let Michigan hang around, more than, maybe Michigan should have. I thought Michigan actually had a pretty decent game, all things considered. But I think through this point of the season, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, because I don't think either of them are getting fired before the season's end. But I think if one of them were to go, it probably should be Wink Martindale, because he has done less with more. He has the defense has a lot of talent. The defense has a lot of potential first rounders. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson. Will Johnson's injured. Is he injured or is he making a business decision? I don't know.
Yeah.
But the defense has not looked great game to game this season. Illinois, they played a solid game. Oregon, they kept them in it for the most part. But there's still enough talent on that defense. I think there's enough talent on that defense that Oregon could have been a winnable game had there been a competent offense and the defense maybe not allowed 1 or 2 scores. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, you can say that, and it's a fairly obvious statement and all that, but I think it's the truth. I think if the defense played a little bit better, was a little bit better coached, maybe Oregon's actually suddenly a winnable game, because Michigan looked fairly decent in that game. That being said, though, I think what probably should happen, and again, we don't know what's going on in the inside, but from the outside looking in, I think both of them actually need to go. I think Wink Martindale just needs to be fired. Given his severance and thank you for being the transition guy, but we'll take it from here. And then Kurt Campbell should actually just get demoted to quarterbacks coach. TJ and I were actually talking about this during the live stream. I wasn't on the live stream. I sent in a super chat, and this kind of sparked a discussion that Kurt Campbell should be demoted back to quarterbacks coach, and they should bring someone in for the offensive coordinator. Now, who is that? I don't know. Some people are saying Brian Greasy might actually be an interesting pick, and maybe he would be. I'd be curious to know if he'd even be interested, but I feel like he's maybe got his sights set on a head coaching position, probably.
I don't know. That could be on a level of bringing Harbaugh back. I mean, Greasy was there for the '97 championship, so
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. What's also interesting though is that USC, they're not too happy with Lincoln Riley right now. Now, I'm not saying anything, but why not? I mean, the guy loves offense and apparently doesn't really like defense. So what if Michigan pulls a Chip Kelly and brings Lincoln Riley in just as the OC,
Yeah.
So, there's something to that. Who do they get for defense? I don't know. I think, you could maybe talk to Tom Allen. I think he's at Penn State right now. You could talk to Lincoln Riley's defensive coordinator and see if he'd be interested in the job. That'd be kind of interesting. But I think in terms of coordinators, I think probably both of them need to go.
So finally, Michigan's making a lot of recruiting noise now. In fact, I believe in the last press conference, Sharon Moore was asked about what the quarterback looks like next year, and he said there's not going to be any problem. He kind of smiled and laughed and moved on to the next question. But one of the things we wanted to talk about was now that Michigan is kind of jumping into that NIL game, in the NIL pool, is this contradictory considering Michigan has made a point to say they're transformational and not transactional?
It's not hypocritical on Michigan's part. Michigan is adapting. You either adapt or die. That's just how it is. And you can also be a transformational school while dropping bags for high school recruits. I think what is hypocritical, though, is, making fun of Michigan for dropping bags for high school recruits, whereas a couple of months ago, those same fans from a certain fan base in Ohio State were making. Yes. No, Ohio State. Their bitter rival, Akron, anyway. No, those same fans were giving Michigan crap for not dropping bags in NIL a couple of months ago, whether it was through the transfer portal or for high school recruits. And now that Michigan is dropping bags for high school recruits, they're like, oh, I thought you guys were transformational, not transactional. Well, you can still be transformational. They're high school recruits. It's not like just because you gave them $1 million, they're going to come in and be Tom Brady. No, they still need development. It's just this is where the game is now. You guys wanted the players to get paid. The players wanted to get paid. Everyone said that it was probably fair, and now everybody's crapping about how you have to go and drop $1 million to get a halfway decent quarterback out of high school now. I'm sorry. If that's how much Bryce Underwood costs, fine. If he's worth it to the program, if he brings in that kind of revenue for the program and that kind of with that kind of investment, then that's just how it is. That's just capitalism. If you want to make that type of money, you should probably have played football. I think it's ridiculous to say. I think it's ridiculous for those types of fans to say things like that, especially when Ohio State, and I don't knock them for this. I think Ohio State is doing something really interesting, and I think Ryan Day needed to do it in order to save his job this year, spend $20 million in the transfer portal and get in players who are going to potentially win you a national championship. I don't think that they're going to win the national championship with the way they've been playing recently, but if they do, it's because Ryan Day made the correct moves based on the current laws of the game to save his job. And that's fine. You know, if they want to do that, that's fine. If they want to go into the transfer portal and pull together a $20 million roster every year, if they can afford it, by all means, do it. That's great. The rest of us can deal with the fact that these kids don't have loyalty to the school anymore. You know, they never really did. I mean, the days of the kids growing up saying, oh, it was my dream to play at whatever school, those have been gone for a while. Okay. I mean, do you think that, what was his name? Jabril Peppers was from New Jersey. Was his dream to come to Michigan? I mean, maybe it was, I don't know, but like, you know, we live 10 minutes north of Ann Arbor. And so obviously growing up, I was like, obviously I want to go to Michigan. That's, you know, of course I wanted to go to Michigan. You know, Bryce Underwood is from Belleville, and that's the player that they're thinking, you know, yeah, we've got a really good chance of stealing him from LSU, but he's going to cost a lot. And there's a lot of noise being made that they're actually going to be able to flip him here soon. I think that they have a shot. It looks pretty good considering some of the other LSU players or other LSU commits. I think there's a wide receiver. He's also from Belleville, also plays with Bryce Underwood. He was at the Oregon game this past weekend at Michigan. So there's a good shot at it. If it takes $1 million to get him to come to Michigan, fine. That's just how it is. You know, but you've got Ohio State fans on Twitter. You got Michigan State fans on Twitter saying, oh, he grew up half hour from the school and he doesn't even want to go there. You guys must really suck. Michigan down bad. No, LSU dropped $1 million on him. Mm-hmm. So of course he's going to take the bag. Everyone would. Why is this so difficult for people to comprehend? I'm sorry, but if any of you, Twitter armchair recruiters, I guess, wanted to, if you were ever offered more money to go somewhere else for your job, are you seriously telling me you wouldn't take it because you've got some sort of, loyalty to your current company? Like, I'm sorry, but if the paycheck is big enough, you're gone.
Yeah. College football is the minor leagues now. It's just what we have to deal with. That's all part of the game now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's leave it right there. What do you think about what we think? Leave a comment and let us know. You can find Mac and I on X. My handle is Dog Team Rivalry. That is DAWG Team Rivalry. Mac is Big Ten Team Rivalry. That's B1G Team Rivalry. Stop by and give us a follow. If you want more great analysis on college football, don't forget to check out all the shows on Michigan football at the Voice of College Football and all of the channels on the Voice of College Football Network. You can also catch Mac and I live 8 p.m. Monday nights live on our own channel, Big Ten Team Rivalry. It's at Team Rivalry on YouTube. Mac, take us out.
This is Michigan football at the Voice of College Football.